So you have a story to tell.
I've got a story,
a fishing story.
A fishing story. It's probably one of the most epic fishing stories of all time that I've been a part of. But back in the days, my friend bought a boat
in Hawaii.
In Hawaii.
Okay.
So he bought a boat in Hawaii, and it was an older boat, not a boat for fishing by any means.
Hardly seaworthy?
Yeah, very much not seaworthy. It would have done better on a lake than the ocean.
All right.
So we decided to go out at this place called Kaneohe Bay.
Okay.
And Kaneohe Bay, and it's kind of like a lake sometimes if the wind's not blowing and the trade winds aren't blowing. It's relatively flat. So he's got this boat, and one of my friends decides to captain the boat because he's got the experience. My friend that bought the boat's got no experience, and our other friends got some experience.
Okay.
And it started off just as a catastrophe, okay? We get the boat into the water, and we're not 100 yards from the dock.
Yeah.
And then we hear, oh, the boat's stuck. We're on reef.
Oh,
by
no.
this time. Yeah,
Oh,
it's just like
you
okay.
actually hit a break.
Yeah.
Like you were skimming, and then you stopped.
And then we stopped.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, well, let's just back out of here and just get going. So we go out and we start fishing. We were fishing we're just going to go mess around the reefs. And we call it papio over there, which is kind of like a small juvenile trevally, looking for omilu, papio, but yeah, just like a jack trevally.
Okay.
So we're out there, and then we get to a point where, the waves are breaking, and then all of a sudden the boat stalls.
Oh no.
And the engine cuts, and it's
and you're in the break. You're in the wave break.
We're in the break. Not a good situation, and we're just kind of like laughing it off like the engine's going to start. But
all of a sudden
never starts.
You hear the ocean water and the birds chirping, but nothing else?
Nothing else. And we're trying to get it started, and it's not starting, bro. Mm-hmm. And we're just hanging out there, and then all of a sudden we just kind of, the way that the current's taking us, these waves just start breaking in the back of the boat.
Not good.
And it was like, okay, this isn't great at all. And
of course, over there, you're still far.
Yeah.
You're far from the shore.
I mean, we could see the shore, but, with my swimming skills, I had nothing. I didn't want anything to do with it, right? All of a sudden, these waves start kind of breaking into the boat. And at first, they're small. It's not like it's like, oh, my God, the perfect storm type of waves. These are just small waves, but they're doing their job. The boat's taking on water, and then, boom, the back drops. Oh. And it's like, no. And then boom, the front drops. This boat sinks.
Oh my God.
It is down.
So you're full, the entire keel's on the reef.
We are floating. And we've got life jackets on, and
no, you're floating in the boat.
We're in the water at this point because the boat's gone.
Oh, the boat's
gone.
Oh my God.
And we got our life jackets on, and I'm like, okay, well, I've spent a lot of money on these fishing rods, so let me hold on to these.
Yeah.
And then
the cheap one's got to go down with the boat.
You see the cooler just floating. The water floating away. And I'm looking at the shore like, oh my God, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And, in my head, I'm panicking, but I'm trying to stay calm on the outside.
So which means you're quietly, desperately panicking. You're like,
I am. I'm like,
I'm okay. I'm like,
what the f are we gonna do? Right? And one of my other buddies, he's a comic, so he couldn't stop laughing. And the guy that was captaining the boat, he's like a waterman, fisherman. Yeah. So he's just like, oh, let me go look for octopus. And I'm like, what the
hey, listen, asshole, we don't need an octopus right now. You got Kamala Harris over here giggling on the boat as we went down.
And this is in the path of a military air base, so you got these planes flying by, right? And I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, I'm not going to fucking swim. I'm going to eventually have to swim. There's not going to be a choice.
Right.
But I'm over there like waving these planes down like they're going to come save me or whatever. And then just so happened there was this other fisherman that was kind of fishing by himself. And then he pulled up on his boat and he was like, oh, you guys need help? And it was like,
little bit.
Yeah, small kind, bro. And he was like, okay. So it was kind of ego busting, having like a fire boat pull up to us and pull us on board to get us out of that situation. But it was the worst sunburn I've ever had in my entire life, kind of being out there in the water, just floating. It literally took about 2.5 hours for somebody to come get us. And it was just like, oh my God.
Wow.
Crazy. Wow. We got one fish, and since the cooler was floating, we actually recovered the cooler and the fish was still in it. So I put the fish in my freezer. I never ate the fish. I kind of looked at it in terms of a souvenir, and I had it until I moved out of the place that I was living at that time, and I was like, okay, I'm going to have to part ways with you, buddy. But yeah, that was crazy.
Wow. Well, look, this is a perfect example of you should have asked more questions before you got on the boat.
Oh man, I should have never been on that boat. That boat should have never been in the water. And then trying to get that boat back because somebody actually salvaged it.
They did.
Before my friend got to it. And then like the negotiations began. Well, I got it out of the water, so how much are you going to pay me to get it out of the water? It was a mess.
Why didn't you just say the boat's yours, bro?
He could have.
I mean, the boat almost got you killed.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what the sentimental value is.
I ain't ever going back on that boat.
I'm like, hey guys, see that boat right there? We almost died on that boat.
You know what? And as a matter of fact, I'm remembering now. It was a freaking bayliner. Like you buy bayliners to go into like Lake Havasu. You don't go bayliners to go like, hey, let's go fishing in Hawaii.
Yeah, no. Bayliners are for chicks on bikinis in the front there and on the lake.
Yeah. Specifically on like holiday weekends, that's even better.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a great story. I'm glad that you survived said story.
I'm here to tell this story.
I'm glad you made it to tell a story.
You know, if anybody else was on that in our club, they'd guarantee you have a club name.
I think everybody would have been named on that one for sure.
Yeah.
So, with that said, let's start our next episode.
Let's talk about fishing.
Since we're talking about fishing, we're talking about boating, we're talking about surf fishing.
Let's continue the story.
All right. Jojo, based on the fact that we got some fishing gear on here, we got lures, we've got honey badger baits, we've got some hooks and weights. What are we talking about today, man?
We've got an arsenal. We're going to be talking about fishing, and in particular, we're going to talk about surf fishing.
Well, that's a coincidence because at the Redondo Rod and Gun Club, we have a surf fishing extravaganza.
We do have one coming
tournament.
Up. It's the 76th annual.
76th annual fishing tournament.
So we do have the Redondo Rod and Gun Club Surf Fishing Tournament, and it is the 76th annual, and it's going to be taking place from May 25th to June 2nd. So it's a week-long tournament. We're planning on having a lot of fun. Have you done the surf tournament before?
I have, yeah, okay. quite a few times, yeah.
And I don't know if you've noticed, but our club president, Chuck Zimmer, a.k.a. Breaker, he's actually posted some really cool stuff because you being our current historian, there's historians of the past, and he actually posted pictures, I think, from the 7th annual Perch Derby.
Yeah. At the clubhouse, we have the historical books.
Yeah.
The books of the history of the club. On there, over the course of time, previous historians have posted notations and pictures and newspaper clippings and all that kind of stuff. So it's been pretty cool. So he, under Breaker's leadership, we've gotten a tremendous amount of sponsors for this event, right?
We have.
Like 27 sponsors?
I mean, I think we almost needed to go to the backside of the paper to fill up all the sponsors. Yeah. But we've got a lot of sponsors this year. Something's Fishy, Promar Ahi. We've got Angler Pliers. We've got All City Baits, Native Sun. We got Catman, Honey Badger Baits, Baja Fishing Tackle. And oh, look. There's a familiar logo right there.
That's right. We're sponsoring the event too as the podcast, the Rifle Rods and Broads.
We are. Podcast. So there's a lot of sponsors that we've got, and there's a bunch of great prizes. So make sure that you guys sign up. There's a lot of local tackle shops that you're able to sign up for our Redondo Rod and Gun Club Surf Fishing Tournament. The locations: Baja Fishing Tackle. We've got Best Fishing Tackle, Island Fishing Tackle, Eric's Tackle Shop, and Norm's Big Fish Bait and Tackle. And then also, too, you can actually sign up at the club. Yeah. So a bunch of different locations, $25 entry fee, and a bunch of prizes as well. So we do have a barred surf perch prize, and that's $100 cash sponsored by the Redondo Rod and Gun Club. The Yellowfin Croaker prize, which is $100 cash prize sponsored by Breaker himself.
That's awesome.
We've got the Spotfin Croaker prize, and that's $100 by the Redondo Rod and Gun Club once again. And Corbina here, $100 prize, Rifles, Rods, and Broads podcast. And then
awesome.
we've got the halibut prize, which is $50 cash and $50 worth of swim baits, sponsored by All City Baits.
Nice.
So lots of prizes, going to be a lot of fun, lots of posts going up here locally. So we thought no better time than to talk about surf fishing.
Yeah, absolutely. Honey Badger Baits has this 2-inch Perchy Slayer. So props out to them. And, you know, they gave us a few freebies. They're not a paid sponsor or anything like that, but we like to support our local businesses here in the South Bay.
Definitely. And Honey Badger Baits, he's got a large following on Instagram and Facebook, and he's doing a really good job really kind of formulating the baits that he's producing, because he's got a whole line of them at the local tackle shops, and a lot of them obviously are geared towards the local surf fishing that's here in California, whether from surf perch, you've got corbina, you've got croakers, all kinds of different things. And I'll get into more details about some of the stuff that I've caught on those baits, not only those baits, other baits, but also some of the fish that we've got around here in Southern California, and moving on north to Northern California, Ventura County, surf fishing, lots of fun.
Absolutely. I have not caught a corbina, but I hear that they're really good eating, and I've seen them. I've seen them in the surf when I've gone snorkeling, and I've tried to spearfish them, but those little fish are fast.
Dude,
they're really fast.
I hate those things, man. They're like the hardest things to catch. And when you catch them, it's like, oh my God, I got a corbina. Because the funny thing about them is that you see them all the time.
Yeah.
You see those bastards all the time.
They slap you when you go in the water. They hit your ankles.
They do.
Because they're right there in the shallows.
They're right there in the shallows. And, you know, a lot of times what ends up happening is that they'll wrap around your ankle. You can kind of have that freak out moment like, oh shit, what is that?
It's a corbina.
Yeah, it's a freaking corbina, and you see it. And it's like the reason why they're doing it is because they're really hunting that shore right in those shallows. And as you're standing in the surf and you're standing in the sand, what you're doing is as the water's breaking onto your feet, your legs, you kind of get lower and lower into the sand, but you're breaking it up and you're drawing out that bait, the sand crabs or the mussels. And they know, they're like, oh, human feet equals food.
Yeah.
And they'll just whack your toes, or they'll whack the back of your feet and just give you that moment like, damn, why don't you just bite the hook? But I think they like they like your heel a lot better.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
A bunch of little free riders. Yeah. Well, I haven't gotten one. Have you eaten one? Have you eaten a corbina?
I have not. So whenever I go surf fishing, there's tons of fish that I've caught. But when it comes to the surf fish, I am a catch and release guy. And there's a lot of people that, you know, that they'll catch perch, they'll catch croaker, they'll catch whatever surf fish, and then they'll bring it home on the dinner table. And I imagine it's really good. I just have not done that yet. But
I have eaten surf perch. I think it's a good fish.
Yeah.
I've grilled them, made some tacos out of them. You need a few of them. You need like about 5 or 6 of them. You know, they're not terribly. Well, I mean, the legal ones are definitely a little bit bigger, but you definitely need a few. By the time you fillet, there's not a lot left.
Yeah, they're definitely a smaller fish, and they're kind of more, you know, you can make some tacos, you can pan fry them. There's all kinds of different methods that you could use.
So let's see. I'm looking forward to catching some this year. I'm hoping we have a good turnout. We have pictures at the clubhouse back in the 50s where the line goes outside of the clubhouse into the street. There's so many people signing up.
Some of the pictures that Breaker did post on his site, on his Facebook, and that are kind of out there advertising the surf fishing tournament, the newspaper article itself actually mentions that there were 1,500 people at the clubhouse after the tournament.
Oh my God.
So obviously you and I are very familiar with the size of the clubhouse, the lot or what have you. And when we've got 40 guys there, it's like full. It's full, but having 1,500
that's insane.
People there.
That's insane. Yeah.
And just the amount of clubs that were kind of notated in those articles, because if you look at the rod and gun clubs that are around here locally, there's history. Our club, 1948? Was it 48 or 46? 48?
45-ish.
45-ish?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
It's cool. I mean, it's basically the guys coming back from World War II. You know, they built it. They bought the land. They built it themselves. And anyway, that is
whole nother show in itself, right?
So let's get into your surf perch setup, your gear setup here.
Yeah, so let's get into the surf fishing setup, and there's tons of setups. I'll talk about a few things today because I think I can go on and on. Really, I've really found a love and a passion for surf fishing, and I think it's growing up in Hawaii. The fishing style that I prefer and I grew up doing. So in Hawaii, we called it whipping, and whipping basically meant that you were surf fishing, whether off of a reef or from the beach. Back home in Hawaii, a lot of the things that we do, we'd go whipping, aka surf fishing, and we'd catch fish like the mimpachi, which is like a squirrel fish, and we'd go at nighttime where you'd be using glowing curly tails, and it was a lot of fun, a veil. And then during the daytime, you'd go out and you'd look for papio, like I said, the juvenile trevally, and those things get huge, man. You can surf those things from shore and they get up over 100 pounds, the giant trevallies. But you catch them as little babies because on the small rod and reel combo, you're not going to be catching monsters, but you'll catch them. You get a nice size fish, and you got papio, omilu, really good. So when I moved over here to California 10 years ago, it was kind of like, okay, well, what am I going to do from a fishing style? And being half a mile away from the beach, it was like, okay, let's just go down to the beach and let's start some surf fishing. So that's a
low barrier for entry, right? Like
it is.
You can be doing that for $60.
It is. And guess what? You don't have to pay to go onto a boat to go do it.
Yeah.
You grab the gear and you're off to the beach and you're walking the beach and you're surf fishing, and it's a ton of fun. So
if you catch your own bait, you catch the little sand crabs. I mean, you need a hook line and a rod.
Yeah.
And you're in business.
Oh yeah, definitely. And once you're in business, I think once you're hooked and you kind of catch your first fish surf fishing, it kind of, I'm going to do this again, and I'm going to do this again and again and again and again. So I'll go through a bunch of different stuff. Stop me whenever you want to ask some questions, but I got a lot of my toys here today, and we'll kind of go through kind of what I'm rocking from a rod and reel combo, what I'm using for bait, because there's all kinds of things from there.
So what's your favorite setup for perch surf?
So my favorite setup for surf fishing is going to be a Carolina rig with some plastics. I'm not a big live bait guy.
Okay.
I like the challenge of using plastics, and I use a Carolina rig, which is basically you got your rod and reel combo. And I brought mine here today. This is my newest toy. I think I got this not too long ago when we had that barbecue at your house, and I was like, hey guys, look at my new toy. But this is my Phoenix Trifecta Light. It is a TRL 903 ML. And I've got here just a nice little reel here, bought at a local tackle shop, Baja Fishing Tackle. But this is a Daiwa Exceller LT3000. And on here, I've got basically 12-pound J braid that's also made by Daiwa.
I remember seeing that when you brought it over. It's a nice setup.
Oh, it's super light. Not going to be the cheapest combo, though.
What's that at? What's that all set up?
So what that's rocking at right now is...
If you're Jojo's wife, cover your ears now, please. Thank you.
So babe, don't listen, because I may have deflated the price when I told you how much I paid for it, but no. It's about $200 for the rod, and it's about another $100 for the reel.
Okay.
But it's worth it. And all the rods and reel combos that I bought for surf fishing, they last a long time. So it's a 2-piece setup. It's 9 feet. And I also brought my first setup here that I bought a while back, and this is a Bass Pros combo, and this is basically an 8.5-foot rod. It is a Cabela's rod, and this has worked just perfectly fine. So, and this has got a Penn Fierce 2 2500 reel on it with some basic Power Pro 10-pound braid on it. But both work really well. Obviously, the more money you spend, you're going to have a smoother reel. You're going to have a lighter rod, some good action on it. But that's the rod and reel combo that I'm rocking. Normally, when you're surf fishing, you're kind of going to want to go in that 8 to 9 to 10-foot range, because you're going to want to kind of get that line out there.
Sure.
And it really depends, too. If you're wading in the water, or if you're just casting off at the foot of the surf, then you're going to kind of want to get that line out there. And the longer the rod, the better off you're going to be.
So what size hook are you using?
So with the Carolina rig, basically what I'm going to do, and what everybody should do, and I think the Carolina rig is for freshwater, it's for saltwater, but you got your main line, you've got some fluorocarbon leader line. Basically what you're going to do, you're going to tie from your main line, you're going to have your weight, your egg lead right here. And my favorite weight to use is 3/4 ounce.
Okay.
Okay, because it allows me to kind of get it out there into the surf. If I'm fishing, you know, further off of the waves, then I'm going to be able to sling that thing out there. But you've got your lead, you got your bead just to kind of protect your knot there, and then you're going to tie it to your barrel swivel here, just a small swivel. We're talking surf, so we're not having to like freaking catch monsters or anything like that. If I caught a monster, that'd be pretty sick too. But I got my barrel swivel, and then you've got your fluorocarbon leader line, and I don't go anything really over 6 pounds.
Okay.
Okay, so this is going to be basically invisible in the water. And then to that setup, and when I use a leader, I'm rocking about 2.5 feet of leader line. And sometimes this kind of differs. People like to use a shorter leader line when the current's strong or the wind's blowing and the surf is kind of blowing. So you're going to kind of want it closer. I look at that 2 feet, 2.5 feet kind of as that length of leader line that I use. And then I'll rock a mosquito hook, a number 4 mosquito hook. I've kind of used that as the perfect size, and not too big, not too small, but just right. And it works for everything. And then from this hook, I just put on my plastic. Now, whether or not it's a honey badger bait, which has worked really well for me, my go-to before honey badger bait were just these simple gulp sandworms, these 2-inch camo sandworms.
I've used those. Yeah. I've never caught anything on them, but
Dude, they're awesome.
Yeah.
The funny thing about these is, like, on this bag, it says leak seal zipper. That's BS.
It's a little juicy. It looks a little juicy.
It's a little juicy, and it's not the best smelling too. So,
no, I think it's on purpose.
It's a gimmick, bro. They say leak seal zipper, but that's a bunch of BS. So whenever you use those things, ziplock it and double ziplock it if you want to, because if not, that will end up like that'll be in your bag
forever.
But that's the basic setup.
Okay.
And there's a bunch of different styles that people do. They'll use jig heads kind of like this. Sometimes if they're not using the Carolina rig, this is kind of like a big hook. I wouldn't really use this for surf perch per se, but something like a halibut would go ahead and whack this.
Okay. Now let me ask you this: when you're casting, are you casting into the where the wave breaks, or the white water, or behind the white water?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So really what I'm looking at, if I go to a spot, I'm really looking for kind of like these pockets. So if you go down to the beach, it's hard to kind of speak to it, but the more and more that you go surf fishing, you kind of know what you're looking for. So what you're looking really for are for these pockets where the sand goes flat and then it goes into like a little pool, and then it comes back out, and you can really tell just by the waves are breaking and as the white water's rolling over that section of structure. But when I'm casting, I'm usually casting kind of behind the wave, right behind the wave.
Okay.
And as I'm coming in and I'm reeling, and I'll reel slow, and I'll give it a couple, like little tugs there, and then reel. I'm just bringing that all the way in. And the cool thing about surf fishing is that most of the time, depending on the species of the fish, you might want to cast it a mile out, but you're going to get bit
close.
20 feet from you.
Yeah, tight. Yeah. That's what I've noticed to be the case. So one summer, I went spearfishing a lot, right there off of Topaz and Redondo Beach.
Yeah,
by the rocks. It was a nice day. It wasn't very choppy or anything like that. You had pretty good visibility, and I could see all these guys fishing from the rocks, from the jetty, and you could see them throwing the bait, and the fish are like looking at it, and they walk away. I remember they swim away. It was kind of a trip to see. I don't know. It seemed like it was 8
So
or 9.
You saw it from under the surface.
from the fish's perspective. So I'm like, God, these guys, they would reel it in. To your point, they would reel way far away, but the fish were probably 10 feet from the rocks.
Yeah.
Because the structure's there. When you go too far out, there's no structure.
Right.
So it's just open sand, right? And the fish, they'd like to hide in the structure, preferably.
Yep.
So sure enough, that's where they were. And then the only thing that was in the open sand were halibut. I could see the little imprint of some of the junior halibut that they're just hanging out there.
Right.
But getting back to the structure of the dip, so when you get a little bit not exactly where the waves break on the sand, but maybe 8 or 10 feet from that section, there'll be deeper pools. Like that's the best way to describe it.
Yeah, it's like deeper pockets where there's like an indentation in the sand.
And sometimes it's a lot. They're like 12 inches, maybe even 18 inches deeper. It's like a lot deeper, right? So you have the kind of a flat surface, or you can see the waves in the sand from the ripple effect. And then there's a big like pothole, for lack of a better word. It's just like a big indentation. So what you're saying is that's where they chill, because the back and forth doesn't hit them. Not the current, but the drafting effect of the waves going.
That's where they're hanging out. And the reason why I'm throwing behind the surf and people are fishing in the surf and why the fish are in there is that as the waves are coming in and they're breaking, what's happening is that force is kind of kicking up the sand.
Sure.
And within the sand is all the food.
Right.
So whether or not they're feeding on mussels or they're feeding on sand crabs, once that wave breaks, it kind of kicks everything up. So in between the sets, that's really, especially on a higher tide. Now on a lower tide, you're not going to find all that fish in the pocket. They're going to be like, okay, I'm going to go back out, chill, and wait till the tide comes back in, and then I'm going to come back in with the tide. But they're right at that break, right where the action's happening, to where it's kind of easier for them to pick up the food. And that's why you really kind of want to be behind that surf, kind of reeling in.
Okay.
So that's really what happens. And then the Corbina that we were talking about a little bit earlier, for some reason, they just say, screw it, I'm going to do my own thing. And they really stay close.
Yeah, they're shallow. I mean, it's like ankle depth. Like it's right pretty much where that swirly white water meets the sand and is kicking it up.
Right.
That's where they are. It's amazing that the top of their head is almost out of the water and their bellies are almost touching the sand. That's how shallow they'll go to.
Yeah, they try to pretend to be sharks with their fins. You know, like, oh, I want to be a shark today, and you'll see them swimming in the shallow water.
And there's a bunch of them. They'll be together. There'll be 2 or 3 or 4 of them.
No, it's a really cool sight. When you are surf fishing and you're not catching them, but you're catching them on your heels, it's kind of it's kind of like, damn, you bastards, how do I get you? And
they're hard to catch.
They are, man.
They're hard to catch fish.
When you get one on your line, it's just like, wow.
Yeah, it's a big win.
I just caught a Corbina. So it's pretty cool. And where I do go fish, and here kind of along the coast in the Redondo area, most of what I'm catching out there is going to be a lot of the croakers. So a lot of the big surf fishing species that we have here in Southern California are going to be the croakers. You've got the yellowfin croaker, you've got the spotfin croaker, you've got surf perch, and then you've got halibut, striped bass, and then you've got Corbina. So, you know, just kind of down at the beach, just right down the road, I've caught a little bit of every species.
Yeah.
Here around the Redondo area, it's kind of interesting, though. Like from a surf perch perspective, there's not much that I've caught out there. It's almost like Redondo's this pocket of like, there's no surf perch. But if you go north of the pier into the Hermosa, Manhattan area, all the way up North Ventura and further, there's a ton. And then even if you go down south, kind of like the Seal Beach area, Huntington, there's a lot of surf perch. But kind of around this Redondo area, it's been kind of dry for me. But from catching croakers, I've caught tons and tons of croakers. I've caught halibut. I've caught striped bass. I've got a funny story about a striped bass. One time I was throwing out like an ultralight combo, just kind of really messing around with one of these spoons here, this crocodile jig, this exact one as a matter of fact. And I was just kind of tossing out my rod, and then I got a hit on it, and I was on 4-pound test, real small 5-foot rod. Like it had business in the surf. Okay. But I was just messing around, and I got this nice hit, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is a crazy fish. So I ended up bringing in this striped bass, and what ended up happening, my line actually broke.
Yeah.
And the striped bass had the lure in his mouth. Mm-hmm. And as it broke, he must have kicked, because my line ended up tangling on the hook. And when I brought him in, my leader was gone.
Really?
And it was just knotted up on the hook that was in his mouth. And I was like, how the heck did this happen?
Score.
But on that particular spoon, that's a crocodile lure that you got in your hand there. Yeah. And I've caught like striped bass. I've caught Corbina on that. I've caught halibut on that, all from surf fishing.
That's awesome.
It's a lot of fun, man. It's a lot of fun.
That's
And,
cool.
and you know, right now is the perfect time of year. Spring and summertime is really where the water starts warming up. So you'll see a lot of more species kind of coming in.
Yeah.
And then also too, what ends up happening is that this is around the time where the sand crabs actually start their spawning, they start laying their eggs.
Yeah.
So I don't really see where I'm going right now too much sand crab action, but I think in the next few weeks it's going to be coming up, and that's when the fish start coming in. So there's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be perfect time right around the surf fishing tournament that we're going to be having May 25th through June 2nd. That it should have a lot of action, man.
That should be fun. It should be a lot of fun. I have seen big fish at the Topaz Jetty. That same summer that I got my snorkel gear and set up, and I was going, I don't know, I was probably going twice a week. I swam out to the edge of the jetty, and I used to like going in the evening, not quite at dark yet, later in the afternoon, like maybe an hour and a half before sunset.
Right.
And I come across this. I just take a dive down. There's some fish. You can see some nicer sized fish under some rocks, and I take a dive to get a little closer to them. It's maybe 10, 12 feet deep. And as I'm coming up to get air, I rise over this huge boulder, because there's huge boulders on the tip of the jetty, and there was this enormous like grouper. I mean, he was like that, and he was just chilling on the rock. And as I raised my gun to shoot him, right, I had my little tiny spear gun. We like looked eye to eye, and I was like, I'm letting air out. I'm ready. He bolted. He like vaporized. I was like, damn it.
Not fast enough.
But he was big. He was huge. It was from tail to his head. He was about as wide as the rock was, and the rock was pretty damn big. So I was kind of just, after that, I was like, dude, these people think that there's like these tiny fish, and there's certainly a grip of bait fish. You could sit up there and fill up a 5-gallon bucket with bait fish in a few hours. There's a lot of bait fish there, but there's also, wherever there's bait fish, there's big fish, right? So, yeah, they like that structure. I know somebody else that caught by accident with a big treble hook, caught actually some lobster. They're not on Topaz, but on the jetty over on the other side of the marina. Anyway, there's lots of marine life, here in Redondo for fishing. It's really cool.
There's a lot of marine life, and I'll be honest with you. When I first moved up here, I was thinking to myself, what's the chances there's anything out there? But the marine life that is here just along the coast, every day that I've gone surf fishing, there's never been a day that I've seen I haven't seen a pot of dolphins. They're always out there.
That's 4 or 5 freeway of dolphins.
Oh yeah, it is. Then you've got from flying birds, you've got the pelicans that are all over the place. I've seen gray whales just right off during season as they're kind of going through their migration patterns. They're right off the coast. Just a ton of wildlife. There's just so much that's supported out in our waters here in Southern California. It's amazing, and it's just literally right off of the coast. And it's always good to see, because as you're surf fishing, the one thing that I don't do is I never just stay in one spot. And that, to me, some of the fun is that I'm down there on the beach. Well, guess what? It's a big beach, so let me go walk, and I'll get in my steps, and it's pretty amazing what you see out there,
relaxing,
and what you catch.
And relaxing. It really is relaxing with the sound. Actually, we had a great beach weekend this weekend.
Oh man, it was amazing. I was out there.
Yeah, no, it's getting good. So I think by the time the perch derby gets in full swing, it's gonna be killer weather.
It's gonna be prime conditions, but it is great. It's a great view. I mean, you're out there in nature, and what else can you ask for, right? Last year we went on our first Grunion Run. Remember that?
Yes.
That was a ton of fun.
That was a lot of fun.
That was a lot of fun, man. We brought the kids, and they had a great time. But we were right out here, out at Torrance Beach, and I brought my surf fishing combo, and I was just out there, and I caught a couple of croakers, and then remember I brought in that lobster. That was the craziest thing ever.
So random. It was so random,
and it was on one of these.
No shit.
It was on one of these.
What the hell was that lobster doing? That's all like a sandy bottom there, right?
No idea, man. It's all sandy, but guarantee.
Maybe he was eating grunions.
I don't know what the heck he was doing, but I think my hook and my lure just happened upon him and just kind of snagged him. And had a fish at the end of the line, and the way it was fighting, because it kind of gave a kick at first, and then it just kind of was nothing. It was just dead weight. So I was like, oh, this is a halibut. But that lobster.
So did he swallow it, or he just like
it was hooked up on the back of his.
So you hooked him.
I snagged him.
I got you. Okay.
It kind of made me think though, how many more were out there, because they're never just like chilling by themselves.
Sure, yeah, that's a communal thing. I had never been on a Grunion Run, by the way, and that was really cool. And I didn't keep any of the Grunions.
Yeah.
When you realize the Grunions are jizzing up the surf, you don't really want to step on said jizz.
They were having themselves a great time.
They sure were. It was
we ruined their party.
It was an orgy. It was an all-out orgy on the sand. And here's the kicker, right? Like the water comes, and there's like when you flash the light on the sand. I mean, there's thousands of them.
Yeah.
You're like, holy crap. Like those stupid seagulls would have been having like a massive feast if
they were sleeping though.
Yeah, they were chilling. But yeah, they were yeah.
It's crazy. So if nobody out there has ever been a part of a Grunion Run, you can just look up at the Grunion Runs here in Southern California, and there's a bunch of different beaches that you can go to, but it's all based on the tide, the moon.
Yeah.
There's a few different seasons. So there's a couple of seasons where you can actually take Grunion, but you actually have to catch them with your hand. Any other method of take is going to be illegal.
Yeah.
And then there's also observation seasons to where you can only see and watch the Grunion run, but you can't take any. But it is literally, they'll have it mapped out for the entire year to basically say, okay, the Grunion Run is going to take place from this date to this date. And on every day, there's different times. And sure as hell, when we went that one time, it was after our club meeting on a Thursday.
Yeah.
I think the run was supposed to go on from like 11 p.m. till 1 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning. And right at 10:45, you start seeing them, pop up. 11 o'clock, 11:30, they were all over the place.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when that water receded, it was just glistening little tiny fish jumping everywhere. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was pretty unbelievable. And a lot of time, that's where some of the people that go out surf fishing kind of time when they go fishing, because with all the Grunion coming to shore, what's that going to attract? That's going to attract the bigger fish, right?
Yeah. I would imagine so. I mean, it was just some of them in their distraction for love stayed out of the water too long and died. So they looked dead to me.
Yeah.
And then the water comes in, and the tide comes in a little bit bigger and swoops them in. There's I would imagine just a ton of dead bait in there, dead Grunions that
Yeah, that's why the seagulls are like, I'll wait for tomorrow morning. There's going to be some food there for me.
It was a blissful death, I suppose, but. I don't know if there's a way to die. It's not a bad way to die.
Hey man, that was some fun times. We'll do it. We'll have to do it again this year. So right now we're in like observation mode, but come in a couple of months, it's going to be back to take mode for those that want to take. But
what do you do with them if you take them?
That fish is all about deep frying.
Really?
To me, that's
in
a
China,
deep frying fish.
I had like they look like little chips. So those like those chip cookies for kids. What do you call those? The golden. They're like
the goldfish.
The goldfish crackers, yeah. That's what they were like. In China, when we went there was like a basket. My buddy ordered I don't think he knew what the heck, but we got a basket of those chips, and it was the little tiny. They're maybe a little bit bigger than the Grunion, but you could see the spine was translucent. It was all fried down in, so the bony parts were just crispy. They were just totally edible.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I would do so I've never ate a Grunion. In Hawaii, something that's similar or something that I would compare it to is what we call owama. And owama fish is just a small fish. It's a juvenile fish when they're in their juvenile stage of veke. And it's a small fish about the size of the Grunion. And when you just kind of like lightly powder it with some flour, some salt, and some pepper or some potato starch, and you deep fry it, like you're not worrying about the bones. The bones are so small that they're just it's not like, you're eating tuna bone or anything like that. You're just running. I've never tried it, but that's kind of how I've seen it prepared. If somebody said, hey, Jojo, cook up this Grunion, that's the first thing that I do.
Okay. That makes sense to me. I'd try it.
Yeah, but that's like a lot of the surf fish here. Like I look at it in comparison to kind of some of the stuff that we have back in Hawaii, and a lot of it's pan fried. Like if I were to bring some surf perch home and kind of cook it up, the way that I would do it is I'd obviously gut it, but I'd lightly powder it with some starch, and then I'd just dump it into a wok filled with some burning oil and just deep fry it to where, and I'll do that one day. I'll bring it over to the club. I'm going to keep some, and then I'll try that out, but I think it'd be pretty dang good if you just did it like that. Just a nice deep fry to where it's nice, crispy, crunchy, and you've got enough of that fish to enjoy.
Right on. I would try that. I would totally try that. Sounds tasty. By the way, speaking of or talking about food, at the end of the tournament, we got food at the club.
We do.
So we got a big old party.
We got like a taco guy coming.
We got a taco guy. So when people buy the tickets to enter, that includes the grub at the end.
It does. So we got awards, we've got food. That's all taking place on June 2nd. So June 2nd, if I'm not mistaken, 2 o'clock is going to be when the lunch is going to start. So everybody can kind of hang out, come down to the club. And then we've got lots of great prizes. So not only are there going to be prizes for, largest croaker, yellowfin, or largest corbina, but there's also going to be other prizes as well. So trips on the native sun. Breaker usually gets some great prizes. So rod and reel combos. So there's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to be going down. Fish, from what I understand, is going to start the prizes along with kind of like the awards at 3 p.m.
Oh, okay.
On that Sunday, June 2nd. So that's going to be at the clubhouse.
It's going to be awesome. By the way, if you guys want to find out how to sign up and pay and enter, please check out the links below. We'll definitely post that. You can go to RedondoRodandGunClub.com also.
Yeah. So it's going to be a lot of fun, man. I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, this is one of my favorite tournaments just because, we're part of the club, and this year we're going to be a sponsor, which is awesome. But just being out there surf fishing, one funny thing is that whenever I go surf fishing, like I moved up here and coming from Hawaii where the water is 70-something degrees.
Yes.
I just wear my surf shorts and, I just go barefoot. And then I look at these guys next to me and it's just like, what are they wearing? And they got their full waders. It's like, oh man, I only saw that when they go fly fishing.
Yeah. No.
And then 10 minutes later, I can't feel my feet. And I was like, okay, that makes a little bit of sense. Like maybe, Jojo, you should put on some waders and some boots so you don't freeze your feet off.
When it's in the 50s, it's definitely not. It cuts down on your fishing time.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to warm up pretty good. I think it's going to be refreshing to jump in there every once in a while. In the next few weeks.
No, it's going to be good, man. We got to go out surf fishing, Langosta.
Let's do this.
Yeah, man. I try to go every weekend. It's kind of one of those things. I'll wake up in the morning and it's like, and the best thing about it, not only is it like once you have the gear, it's free to go and you don't have to pay anymore. Obviously, you need a fishing license, but you don't have to go all day.
Right. Yeah. No, you can definitely go for a couple hours and you have the rest of the day to go do something.
Yeah.
You're not going to go early. Yeah.
Yeah. It's always nice to kind of going down to the beach when nobody's out there. And then, like you said, just the sound of the waves, the ocean.
It's nice.
Nothing beats it. It kind of completes your day. So if you get it done and over with early in the morning, or even if you go in the evening to kind of like cap your day, it's freaking awesome.
Yeah, we should do that. We should get I'm gonna go and dust off all of my gear and see what I gotta buy. I gotta get some hooks. Gotta get some honey badger baits.
Yep. And it's always good to, so obviously support your local tackle shop. Don't go online to Amazon and look for this stuff. You're not going to find the stuff that you really need. And whenever you buy it from your local tackle shop, the best thing about it is that what comes free with it is knowledge. Because if you go down to the shop, you ask the guys, hey, what should I use? What should I get? They're going to point you in the right direction.
And what stuff is biting on, right? Because the guys give feedback, right? They'll buy something new. They'll go back to the shop and they'll buy more of it because they do. And the best part about it too is that it's like a local knowledge share, right? So guys are going to come into the shop and they're going to be like, hey, you know what? I was just out there this weekend. They're biting on live bait, or they're biting on mussels. They're not eating sand crabs yet. They're not biting on the sandworms, or, they're really biting hard on ghost shrimp. So if you're a kind of like a bait person, you've got sand crabs, which during season when you can find them, they're all over the freaking place. Yeah. Easy to catch,
Sometimes when the sand crabs aren't there, they're biting on mussels. One of the main kind of go-tos is shrimp. It seems like everything in the ocean eats shrimp. So, you can go down to a few tackle shops and they actually have live ghost shrimp that you can buy. And you could use that. You could set it up on the same type of rig, on all kinds of rigs. You could do it on the Carolina rig. You could just do it on like a drop sinker rig where you're just throwing it out there and just waiting for something to bite.
I think we could do a video just on that. I think it'd be kind of cool.
It's awesome, man.
Well, Jojo, before we leave the show, we wrap up the show. I think it's probably a good idea if you can give the audience at least maybe 3 tips for getting ready or for being successful at surf fishing.
A couple of things I'll say. Number one, you need a fishing license.
That's a good idea.
That's a great idea to have, unless you're fishing from a pier, because fishing from a pier here in California does not require a fishing license.
That makes sense to them. I don't know why, but that is a true statement.
Yes, but if you are fishing from the surf, make sure you got your fishing license. Now, if you are just sampling it and you've got a couple of rods at home, I know I've talked about the 9-foot rods, 8.5-foot rods. If you have a 6-foot bass rod or trout rod, just use that to get into it.
See if you like it.
That's all you need. Know how to tie a Carolina rig, use light leader line, a smaller hook, and head down to your local tackle shop, pick up some honey badger baits or pick up some 2-inch camel sandworms from Gulp. Always remember to Ziploc it, and then go out there, cast your line, and I guarantee you, if you're out there long enough, and it's not going to take you very long, you're going to hook up. And you're going to get hooked. And then all you need to do after that, my biggest tip is just save enough money or have enough credit to upgrade.
Absolutely. Once you get hooked, you are hooked.
Yeah.
And it's an expensive endeavor. Now, I got to tell you something. I do have a dream scenario.
Okay.
Like if we lived in a lawless place like Los Angeles, at the ocean, where there were no ramifications for bringing out a firearm and shooting randomly. This would be my dream scenario for fishing. I would take not on a boat. I'd just be walking on the shore, with the sounds of the beautiful birds and the sound of the ocean, the fresh sea air. I'd walk out there with my 9-foot rod and my honey badger bait.
Oh boy.
And I'd sling that bait right into the ocean. And if I got lucky and I hooked up, and it was a big one,
that's a good sound.
I'd reel her in, and if it was a big fish on the beach there, flopping around, after a certain amount of time, I would have to break. I would break my composure, pull out my 9mm, and finish it off. I would do that. I would totally do that. I would shoot a few times too. I wouldn't shoot once. I don't know if there'd be any fish flesh left. Hopefully I'd catch a big one. And
so if you saw that grouper again, that would be the fate of the grouper.
If the grouper, bring out the 870. Give me a hit. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. That's bringing back flashbacks.
It could be like Iran, like fishing in Iran or Afghanistan. I don't know. But look, dude, I'm a gun guy. I pose with the fishing rod every once in a while, and I'm a total poser. I'm not a very good fisherman, but you could get me interested in this whole thing if at the end of the event I could cap off a couple rounds.
Oh boy.
Anyway, with that said, Jojo, let's wrap this thing up and invite folks over to the Perch Derby one more time.
Here we go. We got the 76th annual Redondo Rod and Gun Club Surf Fishing Tournament. It's going to be taking place May 25th to June 2nd. And again, lots of prizes, lots of fun, where you can get signed up and pay $25 for your entry fee. Baja Fishing Tackle, Best Fishing Tackle, Island Fishing Tackle, Eric's Tackle Shop, and Norm's Big Fish Bait and Tackle. So head on down to any one of those locations and sign up for the 76th annual Redondo Rod and Gun Club Surf Fishing Tournament.
Absolutely, guys. Hope to see you at the big party at the end of the event. And again, thank you very much for watching Rifles, Rods, and Broads.
Aloha.